Hello there, my sacramental mushrooms. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining me. Are you a witch that is frustrated currently by lack of results in your sorcery? Is your magic making not really going anywhere? Are you feeling like you're frustrated? You don't know what the hell's going on? You're wondering if you're even a witch at all? Have you been having a bit of a dry spell? This is the video for you. Come in, get comfortable. I want to talk about what could be happening and what you could be considering or thinking about to try and change things up and get the magical results that you desire. These are just a few of my ideas. There are a whole bunch of them out there online and in books. So this is just me coming to the table with some things that you might want to think about if your sorcery is going into a little bit of an energetic cul-de-sac, you're not seeing the results. Let's get into what might be going on, what might be going wrong, and how to change things up, okay? I've been a witch for a really long time, and one of the key things that I have known for the longest time in my witchhood journey is that there's no point in catastrophizing. There's no point in telling myself I'm a massive failure, I'm not a witch, I've got no power, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm never going to be able to get a spell to work again. You know, whenever you experience a failure or a disappointment with spellcraft, you've got to watch that internal monologue, because guaranteed some of the things that you're saying to yourself might not really be helping. So instead, I look at the fact that I've had a failure with a spell that I did, and I try and look for any hidden wisdom that could be in that failure. What do I need to learn from it? You know, do I need to understand that it wasn't the right time to shoot for what I was shooting for? Was I shooting at the right aim? You know, do I need to change up what I was actually trying to bring in or send out or whatever? And how might I want to respond now? Do I want to go straight into planning another spell? Or do I want to sit with the wisdom that might be inside that disappointment? Might I have needed to wait? Might there be other information that I'm waiting on that I couldn't see at the time that I cast the spell? And maybe I need to understand something about the failure, right? I don't shoot for a 100% success rate in my spellcraft as a witch. I never have. And with my students that I mentor in witchcraft, I don't try and encourage them to either, okay? This is not about an egoic relationship with spellcraft whereby everything that you do has to work or else you're a failure and you can't witch and you might as well give in. I think failures in spellcraft and failed experiments within magic can be just as interesting and provide just as much nutrition for me psycho-spiritually as those incredible results that come in and those times where I'm on a high because I managed to really like work a spell and get it to land perfectly. It's all part of the process. It all makes me into a more proficient witch and a witch that has more wisdom as the years go on. So try and think of it like that. If you have a failure or you have a series of disappointments, right? You have a string of mess ups and things that don't land, try and look at that and be like, what is the wisdom here? What do I need to take from this? How might I need to change up the way I'm doing things? What am I missing that I need to really understand and link into? Don't think, what does this mean about me as a witch? Am I even a proficient witch? All witches have dry spells with their magic. All witches have slow days. All witches have times where things are not landing and things are a bit like all over the place, and it could be because of things going on in their life and their energy. It could be because their style of witchcraft needs to change or the target they're aiming for needs to change. A number of things could be going on, but get rid of that really toxic internal monologue that's telling you that you're not a practitioner, you're a failure, and you should just give up. That's definitely not helping. One thing I like to do with my own witchcraft is to work with best of 3. I've had this rule for a really long time because 3 is a really prevalent number for me in my craft and also in my art and in other areas as well, right? Me and 3 just really jive together. And so whenever I have a disappointment with spellcraft, I sit with it and I think, okay, do I want to lean into the wisdom of this failure and don't do another spell? Don't try and shoot for that same thing, but try to understand why it didn't work and what I need to learn from that. Or there's this other option I can take, which is best of 3, okay? I have done a great many spells and a great many rituals in a group of 3, and each of the 3 spells has the same kind of theme. I'm shooting for the same thing, but I'm doing it in a slightly different way. This is something that's really helped me. If it's not something that you thought of before, definitely keep it in mind, right? Maybe your spell needs to be one of a 3-part series, and that is how you're going to really hit your aim, you know? The other thing I think about is, how do I want to change up the style if I want to do the spell again? I like to think of spellcraft in 3 different types of style in a way, okay? okay? So the first style is calling in, summoning towards me, all right? I'm making space for something to come into my life and I'm calling it in. The next type of spellcraft is sending out, okay? So I'm really sending something out into material reality that's going to change things in material reality. So that's where I would do healing, for example. If I'm sending healing to someone else or to a group of people or even to a certain part of my body or a certain part of my life, I'm sending out. Summoning in would be for something like abundance, where I'm calling abundance towards me, right? The third category is dismiss, send away. Okay, so that's your fuck off magic, right? Where you're really trying to get rid of something. You're doing the shoo type of magic. I look at what the failed spell was about. What category did it fall into? And do I want to make sure that the next working that I do is in the same category or a different category? Do I need to change it up? If you ever think about doing the best of 3 in your spellcraft and you want to do another 2 workings, then maybe you want to try doing one from each category. So if the first spell was kind of like a sending out, you know, I'm putting something really out there so that it manifests externally in the universe, then maybe you also want to call in. You want to summon something towards you that can give nutrition to your life. Or maybe you want to do a send away. You want to do a dismissal. You want to do a pushing out something to dismiss it entirely, to reject it, right? Try and think about the style, if it falls into one of these 3 categories, and if you want to change it up with the next working. Try having a look at your target for the spell. What did you want to have happen? What were you trying to bring in? Do you need to tweak or change the target? Do you need to envision something else for the outcome? It might be something a little bit more close to home. It might be something a little bit more deep-rooted as opposed to shooting for just the surface result that you wanted. It might be something that you feel could be more immediate. It could be less ambitious. It could be something that you feel you can shoot for more realistically with your magic than the thing that you were originally going for, you know? So I really think sometimes looking at the target, tweaking it, thinking about what else we might want that is adjacent to that, but might be something that is more fitting, something that feels more meaningful, something that makes more sense in light of what we know from the failed spellcraft attempts. It's always really good whenever we're going back to try spellcraft again, to have a look not only at the style of spellcraft and how that might need to change, but also the target. Look at how you might want to shoot for a different kind of result. It can be adjacent to the first thing that you wanted to shoot for, but there might need to be some changes so that it's more suitable to your psychology or to your needs. If you're really honest with yourself, is the original target actually the one that you need? Is it actually the one that you could go for? Is it actually the one that could be the easiest to obtain through sorcery right now? Other changes that you might want to consider if you want to do more powerful spellcraft would be changes relating to timing. So maybe when you've been doing your spells, you've not been thinking about perhaps the astrological timing. You might not also have been thinking about times when you are energetically your best and you feel the most empowered. You might want to consult with beings that you work with to decide upon a specific timing. You might also want to think about aesthetic changes. You might want to bring in some music. You might want to bring in some different colors. You might want to remove things that don't feel as relevant to the working you were doing, switch up the tools, bring in different tools. So it's all about those tweaks and changes that could very much make the next attempt at spellcraft more potent and really sort of give it more avenues to work. Is it possible that you need a little bit more self-care and a little bit less sorcery? That could definitely be something to consider. I think that we often don't think about, when we're in magic making mode, how much of a toll it might be taking on our energy, on our mental capacity and our creativity, on our actual physical body. And it might be that even before we started doing the sorcery, our body was crying out for some rest, for some relaxation, right? That we needed to calm the nervous system down, that there was small practical things that we could have been doing to feel more nurtured and stronger before we went into, you know, doing the magician shit. So ask yourself, is it actually time for you to focus on self-care for a little while rather than on sorcery? Is the time that you would spend doing the next working actually going to be more fruitfully applied to chilling the fuck out, being good to yourself, you know, having some fun, having some relaxation, and then coming back to magic making mode when you feel more calm and more balanced and centered and ready to do so? If you did an immense amount of spellcraft around one thing in a very, very quick period of time, you might actually have just like messed with the signals. Everything just might be very clogged, right? We have to have patience when it comes to spellcraft. I wrote in my book, Witch in Darkness, that magic teaches the wisdom of delay. Sometimes the results do not come in as speedily as we would have liked them to, and sometimes they don't come in the package that they were supposed to come in. The last spell that I did was 2.5, nearly 3 months ago now, and I was convinced that it had not worked actually, and I was super disappointed. I put a lot into this one. I really wanted to bring in this particular thing, and where it fell flat. It was dead. Okay, I waited for like 3 weeks and I was like, that has not worked. I'm still in the same situation I was in before. But it actually did come to pass, and it came to pass at the perfect moment, in the right way, in a way that I couldn't have even hoped would be as good as it did come in with, right? So sometimes we have to be patient. We have to sit on our hands. We have to avoid the temptation to keep throwing sorcery at the problem and really give it a chance to work, right? Respect the working that you've already put into being. If you've put magic into motion, wait, okay? Do not clog things up with too many callings out, summonings in, right? Sending stuff, etc. Try and relax, try and wait for the results. If you really are sure that the spell has fucking flatlined, okay, and that you need to do something else, then obviously go back to what I said earlier in the video, like make a decision. If you want to do another piece of spell work, are you going to tweak it? Are you going to change it? Are you going to change the target? Are you going to change the style? However it needs to be. But sometimes I think magic makers are actually really gung-ho about doing a lot of workings, and they're just throwing so much at it. They're not even waiting for the result to come in of the workings that they've done, and it betrays a kind of lack of trust in one's own potency and the willingness to show the discipline to trust delay. Trust the sacred wisdom, trust divine timing. As magic makers, we have got to make sure that our actions do not contradict our aims, okay? I have been there. I am not saying this from a place of judgment. I have made this mistake, this fatal error. I'm sure many of you have too, all right? I have cast a spell, and then I have gone ahead and taken the very actions that contradict everything that I was calling in the spell. That's not helpful, you know? If you're going to be training up for a marathon, you're going to want to drink a green smoothie and do your working out and everything else to make sure that you have the maximum opportunity to win that marathon, all right? You don't just want to train for a marathon and then expect to finish while doing everything that's wrong for your body and then just like doing a spell over the thing the night before and being like, okay, cool, I'm going to win the marathon now. No, you have to make sure that your decisions, your behaviors, your words, your routines are in alignment as much as possible with the spell. If you put something into motion and then you do everything that you can to stick levers into the machine to stop the magical machine from working, then we can't be surprised when the machine doesn't work, when it ceases to work for you. So try to make sure that in every possible regard that you can, your decisions match up with what you say you have wanted in the working. Don't contradict what you're sending out and what you're calling in by doing things that are absolutely going to create like further obstacles to you receiving your results. Broaden your criteria and use caveats. These are two things that have really helped me to gain success with my spellcraft. Instead of focusing on extremely distinct material results and like very laser sharp images of the exact thing that I want to have happen or that I want to bring in, instead I will shoot for a specific collection of experiences and emotions. So I will not be too prescriptive about the exact way that I want something to come in, but rather I will have a look at the themes of the thing that I want in my life, and I will say, okay, I'm open to anything that develops those experiences, that gives me access to those emotions, that allows me to have that type of relationship, that brings in those opportunities. But I'm not going to create a laser focused, absolutely minutely detailed picture of the exact way that I want it to look, the exact words that I want to have be said, the exact shape of the opportunity. Because what I want to do is I want to create like multiple avenues for things that I want to have come in. In my spellcraft, I like to use the caveat, I call in this or whatever else is for my highest good. Whatever else is for my highest good. And what I'm doing with that is I'm acknowledging that my ego might have a really puny, piddly, pathetic idea of what it is that would be really the best for me, that would make me the happiest, that would be the best for the thing I'm doing. When actually I know that there are other avenues I might not have considered that could be just as good or better. And so what I'm saying is I want this avenue or any other avenue that will give me access to the same feeling, the same progress, the same joy, the same healing. But if it's an avenue that I haven't seen, if it's an avenue that's behind me and I haven't considered it, I'm open to that too, right? I'm not trying to be super prescriptive. And I know that some magic makers will say, oh, the more like really distinctive and detailed you can be, the better. But that is not what I have found for my own spellcraft. I think it's better to broaden my horizon and consider that the package might look a bit different to a really specific image that I have. But if it's the package that contains the thing I want, I will take it.
We happy? We happy.
Personalize, tailor, customize, put your personal quirks in there, your memories, your preferences, the things that are beloved to you, the things that inspire you. I'm not going to go on about this for too terribly long because my whole fucking channel and a lot of my body of work on the craft exists to promote this very idea. Tailor things, make sure that it feels personal, that it feels not like something you just pulled out of a book that somebody else advised, but something that you designed, you tailored, or you tweaked to your needs, so that it feels really like a tangible and fizzy part of you, and that you have really connected your personality and your power to the working that you're doing. So that's the whole animal for me, okay? I want to make it feel like it's mine. When it's mine, I have the maximum opportunity to find the right key to the right door. If it's somebody else's instruction manual and I'm in somebody else's map and I'm reading somebody else's directions, it's not going to go anywhere near as well as when I know that this is my fucking house, this is my terrain, this is my witchcraft, and I know what is really potent for me. I don't care if I never read it in any book. I don't care if there's no other magic maker in the world that would co-sign it. I don't care. It feels right for me. It hits where it needs to, and that's what makes it the magic that is going to work. Be open to information that you might have missed. Ask for advice on what needs to happen. What seasoning do you need to sprinkle onto the next spell that you do that you might not have realized that you could work with? Ask your beings, ask your ancestors, your rock gods, whoever you work with, right? The elements of nature that you work with. Really sort of call in that advice and just say, look, I'm trying to make this fly. It's not flying. What am I missing? Get at me. Give me some spells. Give me some insight. You know, like give me sort of that psycho-spiritual bump on the head that I need to be able to go, oh, that's what the spell is missing. That's what needs to happen. And try to always think of your spells as just this incredible force of learning and experimentation. No spell is wasted, even if it doesn't come to pass. You didn't waste the time. You didn't waste the ingredients, okay? Nothing like that. Every single spell that you do is like every single workout you do in the gym when you're training for something or you want to get to peak physical fitness, okay? None of it is wasted. Every single spell, whether it comes to fruition or not, teaches you about your craft. It allows you to sit with your tools and your techniques. And a lot of it could really be fed into a much bigger aim as well. If your aim with a spell was really, really ambitious, like if you were trying to topple global tyranny all on your own with one spell, it's quite possible that you didn't manage to do that, honey bunny, but you might very well have made a nice chip in the wall, okay? It's going to take a lot more than you and your one spell to do something that is aimed at so many variables and so many systems and so much money and so much tyranny. If you're trying to topple that all on your own with one spell, then I commend you, and you're probably a really beautiful person, but your spell has probably gone towards putting a chip in the wall rather than taking the whole wall down all on its own. If a spell didn't come to fruition, your magic making's gone flat, see this as a really interesting part of the journey. Writers should not feel like they're not writers because they get writer's block, because they're not producing anything. That's part of what it means to be a writer, okay? Sometimes you're cooking on gas and you're producing a lot, and sometimes you're like, oh, I really can't string a sentence together. And that's all part of what strengthens you as a writer. It's part of the realism of the experience of being a writer. And it's the same with witchcraft. Sometimes we're just down on our luck and things are not coming together, and this can be a really good time for some learning. Sometimes it's really about not chasing waterfalls, but sticking to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Okay, TLC that shit. Sometimes I've had to come back to the basics, the elementals of magic. I've had to come back to what I know I've had results with in the past. I've gone through my records and I've looked at what I really get the most joy from and what brings in the most results. Okay, for me, poppet magic is a massive one. I've also had incredible success with sigil magic. I've done a few really great things with glamours, right? Words of power, that's always a big one for me. There are some other elements of magic that I'm not as great with, that I know other witches have great results with, but they didn't quite work as well for me. It's okay to stop being experimental, ambitious, and expansive and just come back to what the fuck works. Come back to what you know you're actually really good at and you've had the most prevalent results with time after time. Thank you, fellow magic makers, for spending some time with me today. I have really enjoyed your company. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know what resonated with you, what works for you. Have you found yourself in a bit of a magical slump before, and how did you get out of it? Share your wisdom as a fellow practitioner. We would love to know. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, I will leave a few specific options down below that you might want to look into if you are a magic maker and you want to talk to me about how to really make your witchy practice everything that it can be. And you can also purchase my 2 books. The first one, Rebel Witch, Carve the Craft That's Yours Alone, is available to purchase if you have not checked that one out. And then my new offering, Witch in Darkness, Magic for Tough Times, Bad Days and Moments of Total Catastrophe, just came out last month. So you can grab your copy of that too. Do me a favour and hit the like button before you go as well, my darlings. All right, blessed be. Much love. Mwah.